Hi, and welcome to the Sheroes Collective podcast. I'm your host, Renee Sparks, and today I have an amazing Shiro. And you've got this right. I keep saying this week on week, but it's the truth. And you will know this when I start unpacking the conversation and we get there. You'll get it. So today's guest is Simanay SKY. And this is really a woman with many, many, many things. I'm going to take my time to read through it. So bear with me. She's an author, a songwriter, a singer, a presenter, and a motivational speaker. She published her first novel in 2021 called Elusive Love-line. I hope I got that right. And it's a really, really, the story itself speaks about events that shook the very foundation of a young woman's life. And I mean, I think that can resonate with so many people, right? So the story is filled with rejection, pain, long suffering, laughter, and hope, and is part of a trilogy. And it's the first one of the three that has come out. In 2022, she's joined a radio station. And so this is the new avenue that was open to her. She's hosted her first show on Radio Awakening, which is a gospel online radio station. And in that same year, she also launched sessions that's part of her ministry, which is called Treat Me Like a Princess. I'm hoping we're going to talk a little bit about that. She's a woman who's overcome abuse and tragedy and uses those trials to uplift others through public motivational speaking and practical encounter sessions. And that's where Treat Me Like a Princess fits in. She's then moved on in 2024 to be spreading the word and gospel on South Coast Radio. And the last thing that she's added, or actually there's two more points. The one was around the gospel album that she's launched in 2021, which is King of Kings. And I suppose we could really hear within that it's open to anyone. Like what I loved about her description of this is how it's brought multiple and diverse denominations together. And in her little bio, she writes, to rise above the chaos of the world, right, and worship together. I think that was really beautiful add on. And the last thing I thought was really, really amazing. Love spending time with family, believes laughter is the best medicine, and loves working in nature and the ocean, the sound of the ocean, the waves. So yeah, thank you so much, Simanay, and I hope that everyone listening is going to enjoy this conversation. I can see I'm going to. Welcome.
Hi, Renee. Thank you so much for the welcome and that awesome intro. Like, you definitely feel like a superwoman when you're on Sheroes. So good evening or good afternoon, good morning to anyone listening to your show. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And yeah, I think this is the whole point of Sheroes, is celebrating ordinary women. And we are all, and I've actually even written extraordinary because, yeah, put that in brackets, because that's what every single woman is. And a few Sheroes before you, I had Tracy Malawana on, and I thought she was incredible when she said, you know what would be amazing if the woman selling vegetables in the township is a Shero that's acknowledged for that.
Wow.
So this is exactly that platform. Women can, nominate each other. Men can nominate women who they think should be, and I think that's the beauty of it. It could be absolutely anyone, and I think it's beautiful when we see just how incredible each and every woman is, right? Even if it's a woman that is staying at home caring for her family, I think they are not celebrated enough.
That is so true. That is so true, Renee.
So this is the platform for all women in all diversity. And so, yeah. But now on to you, because this is your moment. And given that introduction, the very first thing I thought of, because it started off, it hit us with publishing, right? And then also about your release of your album. And I thought, how did you get there? Because it seems everything seems to have happened from 2021 onwards. So obviously there was a Simanay before this, but what kind of led to you being published, your album being released, and all of this visibility?
Can I first just say, I just want to give honor and all thanks to our Heavenly Father, because that is definitely the divine power that has led me here. And I want to say that, when I looked at this journey thus far, and I feel like I'm still just beginning, it's as if it's a staircase to where God is leading you to be and who he wants you to become, because we are always becoming, right? None of us have arrived yet. So I looked at this journey and I was like, sometimes we look at the small beginnings and we despise it, but the word is so clear about saying we should not despise small beginnings. And I looked at the journey, and sometimes we ask, why me? Lord, why did this happen to me? Why did I have to go through this? But if we didn't go through it, we wouldn't be able to get through it, to get to that point where we can actually release to someone and say, these are the things I went through, trying to help them either to get through it themselves or to overcome from it, or even to prevent it altogether. Like, we are raising up the next generation, and it's so important that we as women, older women, I would even say, if you're above 30, you should be teaching the one beneath you. You should constantly be doing that, because we are actually raising up the next generation. And so I'm constantly going, this is my experience. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not shy about it. It has happened. Sometimes it wasn't willingly my choice, but it's happened to me. And I've got to go, like, God has got a plan for all of this. And somehow he is going to show me, maybe not today, but in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months or even a couple of years. So I think, yeah, I first wanted to start just to say, thank you, God. Thank you for this opportunity even.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I think it's beautiful that you can bring, make God the core of everything that you've gone through. But also, you touched on the fact that it hasn't always been, oh, Simanay SKY, or up here in light and a wonderful life. And I think that is something that I've really pulled through. It's been a golden thread for most of the sheroes, that you've gone through trials, through pain, and you've chosen to look at it through a certain lens and say, you know what, I've gone through this. This is only going to help someone else, to get through theirs. And yes, we know all our paths are different and it might not hit the same, but at least when you have this conversation with someone else that has gone through it, with a woman that you then consider a role model or is there to hold, I think it really does change the way things go in your space. I mean, I'm listening to you and things are resonating. It's like you sit and you go, why is this happening to me? And we all go through it. Even the people on Instagram that is smiling and showing all the best of themselves also have dark days, but choose to to showcase that positive side, which in essence, we kind of have to showcase both, because otherwise we give this incorrect view of
False
being
persona.
all the time.
Yeah.
You spoke in your bio, it speaks about having gone through this journey of pain and abuse yourself, and that led to your passion to speak words of motivation and affirmation. But how do you even get to the courage to do that? Because remember, that's not easy. There are women right now probably listening to us in abusive situations, maybe not even recognizing that level of abuse, or maybe believing that they don't have a voice and that they shouldn't be using their voices. How did you manage to tap in? And I know that's personal to you, but just
but I actually want to touch on that. It's perfect that you mentioned that. That emotional manipulation that is constantly happening. So you're in a space where you kind of feel like, I can't, it must be me. Like, they kind of make you, so your perpetrator, if you want to put it like that, make you believe that it's your fault. So you kind of stay in that space. But once you get to understand who you are, and I'm bringing it back to God, who you are in Christ, who he's called you to be, your core belief of who you are, that will allow you to come out of that space and actually to speak up and say, but this is not okay. This is not how God says it should be. This is what I'm supposed to have. And when you start looking at yourself like that, it's like, I always say, like, I have so much shame. I feel like I've done so many wrong things. I've allowed so many things to happen to me. But when God looks at me, he doesn't look at me like that. He looks at me through the lens of seeing Jesus, and Jesus is perfect. And I go like, how does God even look at me as perfect? But he does. And that is how God wants us to look at each other and, like, start loving one another in that way. So when I start speaking to women, and I don't know if you want me to dive into the treat me like a princess.
Please do.
But
It was my next question. Go for it.
okay, so maybe I should take it one step back. Through the abuse, I was married before. I went through a very abusive marriage. I've learned a lot of lessons from that. It led me to a deep depression, but God can pull you out of anything. And I went for counseling, and I'm telling you, the perfect counselors, if I put it like this, couldn't help me. You know why? Because they've never been through it. So I couldn't feel like somebody's telling me something that they've been through and that they've overcome. So that it kind of made me like to the point of when somebody was explaining something to me from where they fell and where they came out of, I could relate. And I was like, this is the person that is actually going to help me out of this space. And that's what God did. He brought people into my life, but it actually opened up my eyes to see that this is why you went through it, so that you can help somebody else. That people that helped you, it's now your turn to go and help someone. And so I wrote this book in 2016, and it was like just a whole lot of journal pages, and because I always loved writing. And eventually I read to my mom. I said, Mom, listen to this. And she said, you know, this is an actual book. And then I was like, no, like I can't write this and tell people about this. Was my journals, and these are things about people that I know, and this is about myself. And she said, but it's an actual book. And then I had to think about names and how I would present this book and what is my message through the book. And when I say Elusive Love-line, love is so hard to find, Renee. It's so hard to find. But if you actually look at the pages of what God said love is, then it's not that hard. Okay. So, and if we start raising people in the way that I've just explained previously, then it's not going to be that hard. But it's up to us to make the difference in others' lives and use our stories, not feeling ashamed of it, but actually rising up above the chaos, like I mentioned, and start saying, this was my situation, but it doesn't define who I am. Yeah. You know, so that using that and actually speaking to people about who they are called to be, not about who they were, what happened 2 minutes ago or last year or 5 years, because a lot of people look at us like that and they go like, all your mistakes is who you are. No. Yeah. All my mistakes is leading me to who I must become. So I've learned from all of that. If it happens again, it means that I didn't learn well enough. And so God then allows me to go through it again, but this time I'll learn better. So I want to just read like a small piece out of my first, if that is okay. Out of my first chapter, it says, born to rejection. I want to read just a small piece. It says, we were not made for ourselves, yet we were born into this world with the most selfish tendencies. It is written that we are all born into sin, and the only way out is to love. By nature, we have all been seeking it out since we took our first breath. What is love, and how can we find it? And the first book doesn't teach you how you'll find it. The first book speaks about all the mess. The second book speaks about how you'll find it. And the third book is actually about who you are becoming. So I'm very excited for the journey. It's literally, for me, it's just the beginning. Then what God said to me is, because I said, I've written these books. I have only published one. What is it actually that this book is supposed to do? And God showed me those staircase, like, you know, all the steps on the staircase again. And he says, like, it's actually you moving up on the stairs. And now the next step out of this book is, how are you going to help somebody? And I started taking parts out of the book, like born to rejection, fear, condemnation, all of those things, the shame. And I started collaborating that into documents where I started printing out paper that was linked to your biblical view of things and us as women, how we've been treated, patriarchy, all of that. And then I started opening it up and being like, okay. And I started with small groups, and it's still small groups, and I prefer it like that. So women of 10 to 12, I'm actually planning my next one now for November, which I'm like, how am I going to do it November? I'm also launching my album, but Jesus, you can do all things. And the word says I can do all things through Christ. So that's how I do it, because I know you're probably going to ask that question. But yeah, that is how the journey has evolved. And the Treat Me Like a Princess, I know it's only going to grow. I'm very excited about that. I think it was in 2021 where the Lord gave me a word. And this is a hard one because not a lot of people would do it. because I've had so much issues with trust through my life. It was always broken. So I come from a divorced home, and I've been divorced, as I said. My husband cheated on me. It was abusive. It was like every level. So I had to learn from all of that. And coming out of that space, I had to say, okay, what am I going to do for someone else? What am I actually going to present to someone else? Because I'm not going to speak about my pain. I'm going to speak about my victory and my overcoming, because that is what they need to know, because otherwise they're going to remain in the space that they've been in, you know. So just treat me like a princess. Then it was the album. The Lord was like, you need to release this album. But what happened was I got COVID.
Okay.
December 2019, 2020. Yeah, 2020, December 2020. And then my grandfather also passed away in that time. I hadn't released any of my music yet. I've been preparing music, because in 2017, when I started the music, or started with the songs in recording, my producer, unfortunately, Andre Pompo, he passed away. And that kind of set me back, because now I was even more emotionally down, and I stopped. And then I had to pick it up again. And when I did, I actually launched a completely different album called King of Kings.
Wow.
And so the album that I was supposed to launch continued growing, and it's been growing for 7 years.
Wow.
So from 2017 till now, and then God told me last year, pick it up. And I picked it up, and guess what? I was in a truck accident. I'm telling you, the truck came from the opposite direction, right over the bus lane, over into my lane. And I watched this truck coming. There was nothing I could do. It was either I was going to accelerate, knock us into the vehicle in front of us, or I was going to say, okay, brake and wait on you, God, and see what you're going to do. And all I felt in my spirit was to wait, brake and wait. And I did that, Renee, and that truck came for us. And it rammed us over 3 lanes. Nobody can explain why the cargo didn't fall off on us, why the truck didn't crash through my door. It stopped right up against. It's, wow. Oh my God, a miracle.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? It was in that time that I had to trust God. He actually wanted to see if I was going to trust him. And unfortunately, and many of us make this mistake, we go like, okay, maybe you just wanted me to step down for a bit. But actually, he wants you to push through. When you get to that space, he wants you to push through, continue to push through. And so I didn't pick up that. And I then got the word again this year, you need to pick it up again. And what are the chances? I send out the flyer on the 29th of July this year, and a taxi knocks us. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what is your message now? I really need to learn this time. Please tell me what it is. And like literally in my spirit, I just feel you need to continue despite what you're seeing, whether it's financial situations that you're going to be in now because you need to fix your vehicle, because you need to do this. You need to continue. Do you remember how you trusted me in 2021? This is bigger now. This is not just for you. So in 2021, God said to me, that big thing that he spoke to me about was, you need to resign. I was like, what? And he reminded me again of COVID. And he said, so in COVID, you made me a promise. So I did. I said, Lord, I promise if you heal me from this, because I was down for like 18 days. And I said, if you heal me from this, I promise you I'm going to release my album. Okay. And then I thought it was all fine, right? He healed me. And then January I went to work, and February I was at work. And at the 21st, the Lord says, actually the 20th, because the 21st I resigned. The 20th, he says to me, you will resign tomorrow. And I'm like, no. Oh, no. The 21st, I resigned. There was a whole journey to that. I'm not going to go into that detail, but I resigned. And I eventually, my boss, I'm trusting God. There's a mission that I need to complete, and I'm doing this. So you must know what comes with that. Wow. You must really be certain you heard from God, because after that 5 months, I was like, God, I don't have any more money. What are we going to do? And now I've released my album, I've released my book, and I've been like, okay, Lord, now I'm just waiting on you. And I literally was. I had to just trust him through all of that. And he came through for me on the 11th month, which we would like to say the 11th hour, after people have left my life and have said to me, you know, you didn't really hear from God. And that's okay. And that's what I want to say to the Shiros today and those who are becoming Shiros. Yeah. It's okay. As long as you know you've heard from God and you keep trusting him, you keep pushing through, you keep persevering, he's going to come through for you. And I got a better job. and I didn't apply for it. I had applied for many other jobs, believe me, even like downgraded. I went all the way to like, I want to do this. Okay. I like just need to get a job. And God gave me a better position, a
Wow.
position I would not even have applied for. And on top of that, they headhunted me. I didn't apply for it.
That's
So that's
amazing.
what God can do when you trust him.
Yeah.
And what happened after that, I just got the position. And the same month, I was called to radio, and they're like, you were on a few months ago. We wanted to know, are you available? And I'm like, what? Jesus. And then I had a slot 7 till 8 on a Wednesday, and then I had 2 slots, 8, I think it was 7 till 8 on a Sunday as well. So it was amazing, and it was a new ball game for me. It was crazy. I started doing emceeing. I'm doing launches for people that are launching their albums. God has just been opening up amazing doors. Like it's incredible, absolutely incredible. I don't know if you know Lyrical Misfits. They just launched. That was just awesome to actually go and do something like that for them last month. But what I want to say is that when I asked God about this journey for me to launch the album, this new album called Light in the Storm, and I said, how come I had so many attacks? Firstly, my producer passed away. Then I went through all of this havoc during like being at home and, you know, people turning their backs on me. And I'm like, I don't understand. They love me. You know, why would they say that I didn't hear from God? And God was like, I cannot let them go with you. They're not ready for where you're going. And I'm like, I never understood that. So I had to make peace, and I had to just go like, okay, when God's time is right, they will either come back into my life or their season has been completed, you know. So we have to make peace with things. There's some things that is totally out of our control. And then I said, okay, God, what was the lesson in the second accident? Because this is now the 7th year, and I really need to launch this album. But now there's the financial things that I need to take care of, this and that. God said, there's always going to be something, but are you going to trust me through it all? And I was like, okay, this is all yours.
Yeah.
And he showed me that my car was actually a representation of my ministry. It was my vehicle. And so every time as I was driving, the enemy would try to take me out. So I'm going to every time allow him to, or I'm going to say, God saved me before, he'll save me again. This is what he wants me to complete, so I need to do it. I don't know what my next steps is. I've already seen what he does when I trust him. So I'm going to trust him again. And I'm really hoping that all the Shiros and those who will be Shiros will join us for Light in the Storm, because we are launching the 30th of November, and it's going to be amazing, Renee. This is my personal invitation to you. I will give you 2 tickets because I really believe that you should just be there and just see what God is going to do. It's 7 years. 7 years. So I know that is his complete number, and he must be planning to release his infinite glory. I'm literally just the vessel. Actually, I have a song called Glory Vessels that's going to be released on that night as well. So yeah, very excited for that. My first single of the album will drop in October. So I'll be sharing that with you as well. So yeah.
Oh my word, what an amount of lessons. But what I really appreciate is the way that you are seeing it, or the way that you are interpreting it. I mean, if I had to say to someone, oh, I've had an accident twice, you know, and it's almost like, okay, there's something wrong with you, like you should be driving. But I do like the lens that you've taken, and the fact that, again, you're bringing it back to your core values and your core beliefs, and I think that's amazing. And so I really do think there's value in that for anyone, is to have a bigger purpose and to know that you're part of a bigger purpose, and that is incredible. And yeah, I can't even imagine, because when people are going through darkness and through depression, it's very, very, very difficult for them to say, yes, I'm going to trust, but just to hear you say you've gone through, you know, these valleys of darkness, and you've risen above that. It is possible. So for people going through really difficult times, we know mental health is really, really, really a big issue. And I suppose it's everything within this world, right, that contributes to that. And just, again, sometimes we feel like we don't have the support, but it also depends on, like you were saying now, your support frameworks are all leaving, you know, and you're having this one that you kind of have to hold on to and say, okay, I do see you, and you are enough. and that's difficult sometimes. So yeah, you
It
want
is.
to say
But
something?
what I wanted to say now is just on what you were touching, the support structures. You know, what I didn't mention was in the interim period, God was building up new.
No.
And he was saying, I'm bringing you these ladies and I'm bringing you
Yeah.
this team and they're going to join you. And the team just grew. It's phenomenal. It's amazing because I kind of say, I found my tribe. I know where I belong, you know? Like, so that's what God does.
Yeah.
So you think like all of these people are leaving your space and, you know, the support structure is important, Renee. And I think that is why God allows for us to do things like what you're doing now. This is amazing. I really commend you for it. I celebrate you for it. And then things like treat me like a princess because you are enabling them to understand who they are called to be. And that is what it's about. So God is going to allow, even if people have left your life, it's for your better, it's for your good and for his glory. And he's going to bring people alongside you that's going to lift you up.
Yeah. I
So
think that's
yeah,
also a beautiful word, is that those who are meant to be with you will be. And so, yeah. And sometimes,
absolutely,
like you say,
absolutely.
sometimes it's difficult. You ask yourself, like you said, I love this person. How can this person not be part of my journey? But if it
Yeah.
isn't, it isn't. So, yeah, really, really good insights there to have. So, thank you for that. So you've just spoken about, and I think you've actually already given us the answer, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to say it again. Like, how do you remain focused? How do you bring yourself back towards what the goal is? Because I mean, it's taken you 7 years, like you've said, but
Yeah.
I mean, some people give up along the way and they go 7 years, I'm you know. So how do you,
Yeah.
yeah, how do you bring yourself back into yourself and say, okay, this is the focus for the next few months, next few years, whatever it might take? Yeah.
I wish I could take you to my bedroom to show you my wall. So I've got something called a vision wall that God gave me in 2021. So what I've done is every message is given me, whether he's woken me up at 3 o'clock in the morning or whether it's through the day, I've made little notes for myself, whether on my phone or actually writing a sticky note, and then come home, spend some time with the word, because that for me is key to understand who the Lord is and who I am in him and who he is in me. So then I start writing these things and it's a beautiful, I'll actually just send you a snippet of the what it looks like. And it's just full of color. It's like kind of like my top, like it's full of color.
Yeah.
It's got all these little snippets that God has given me since 2021. And then some things that I took out of my diary and I just stuck it up there just to remind me. And so yeah, that is really it. Me spending time with God and looking at the things that He's promised me. So I've literally written all these promises and all of the dreams within my heart. There's a little big thing in the middle, little big thing, a big one that says dream.
Yeah.
And you know, I was at a conference earlier this year, and a lady came up to me. Her name's Colleen. She's absolutely amazing, and she says to me, God is saying you need to dream bigger, you need to take off the limits. And I just broke like down and cried. I was like, oh my goodness, I know. And I'm like, so you'll do that. You'll even send like people to come and just confirm what he's already told you.
Yeah.
And so break off those limits, trust God completely, and just like really focus on what he's given you. I want to say one more thing, that the dreams that he's given you, they've been in your heart forever. So when he's given you those dreams, that is actually him saying, these are the things that you will achieve if you put your heart and your mind to it. But remain humble and put me first. That is my key. That is the way I've been doing it. So yeah, I
No,
hope that
fantastic.
answers
Oh,
your question.
you've just given us some nuggets as well there, because my last question to you was going to be, what advice would you give a young woman thinking about, going into a career in terms of singing or presenting or publishing their own journey? Or what would you give? But I mean, what you've just said now is just so powerful, but I'll give you the opportunity. Maybe you've got another gem.
You know, I'm going to say this. I've studied logistics. I'm in transportation, but that is not the core of who I am. That is so we cannot actually tell someone else what it is that they should be doing. That's why I mentioned the dream is within your heart already. So there's lots of things that we can go on and learn and want to do and want to achieve because we want to reach a certain status or we want to reach a certain salary or whatever the reason may be. But that which is in your heart, God placed there, and He's going to make provision for it to come through. You will see it come through. Even if it happens when you're 40 or 50, I'm telling you it will happen. I've seen a beautiful woman that came into her, I think it was 49th birthday, and God opened up for her. So amazing. She's actually in England right now. She is one of our she's my prophetic prayer warrior. I don't know if you know her name is Sally Goodwin, so I trust that she'll be on your show soon. But she's absolutely amazing. She's written 3 books. It's called Woman of Significance.
Okay.
Every night I go and read a chapter because it's absolutely amazing, and it speaks to who you are. And she's mentioned every single woman in the Bible. So again, back to your question, if it's within your heart to complete something, God is going to allow for it to come. And though it tarries, promise will come. It will definitely come. You just keep pushing forward and you keep trusting God and keep being faithful, doing what you are called to do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You've given us so much food for thought and so much nuggets that we can go back to and say, okay. And I love how it actually ties into the discussion I had with the Deputy Minister for Women, Youth, and people with disabilities, where she also said, it's difficult to say, follow my journey, because my journey is personal. Everyone's journey is personal. And so you've just really reinforced that, because very often people sit and look at people's social media, like I said, or look at their career trajectory, and they think, oh, I'm going to do exactly what this person did. In actual fact, doing exactly like following that recipe might not get you where you want to be, or get you there, and it's not going to be what was meant for you because you've not listened to your own calling. Yeah.
And you're not fulfilled. Then you're just not fulfilled. You're doing all the things that you wanted to achieve, and you still feel like there's something missing. And that's exactly what has happened until the whole journey of 2021 started moving me in the right direction of where He actually wants me to be. And now I feel like I'm on the right track.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Simanay, and for sharing all of your bubbly self. I thought that was the most amazing part. I mean, you were oozing all of this positivity as you were speaking. So thank you for that. And so I look forward to getting the picture of your vision board so we can add it to this. It'll be at the end.
Sure.
And to anyone who's just watched this conversation, please do like, subscribe, and follow. Nominate other Shiros to be part of this, because every single one of us needs to be celebrated. So thank you so much, Simanay, for your time.
Thank you so much, Rena, and thank you to all your guests. Thanks.
The current images being displayed are of the book written by Simanay SKY, Elusive Love-line, the album being released on the 30th of November, Light in the Storm. Tickets are available at Quicket. And then the last image is of her vision board that she discussed during our conversation around what keeps her going. So I hope you enjoy it, and please check out Quicket for tickets to her concert as well as access to her books.